Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Madison. We are very happy to see that we were all able to find each other this morning at 10 o'clock, our first service in the summer of one service. This is a community where curious seekers gather to explore spiritual, ethical, and social issues in an accepting and nurturing environment. Unitarian Universalism supports the freedom of conscience of each individual as together we seek to be a force for good in the world. My name is Karen Rose Gredler, and on behalf of the entire congregation, I would like to extend a special welcome to visitors and newcomers. We are a welcoming congregation, so whoever you are and wherever you are on your life's journey, we celebrate your presence among us. As we gather in this place and time, let us remember we are all visitors in this life. We come together to find meaning and hope with all the other visitors in this life. Let us join our hearts and our minds together as we celebrate life together. This time, please silence your cell phones, and I invite you to join me now in a few minutes of silence for contemplation, meditation, prayer, as we settle in and come fully into this time and place together.
Wherever you are, come with your hurts, your imperfections, your places that feel raw and exposed. Come, whoever you are, come with your strengths that the world shudders to hold. Come with your wild imaginations of a better world. Come with your hopes that it seems no one wants to hear. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. And as we join together in lighting the chalice, we continue the words printed in your order of service. As together we say, "We will make a place for you. We will build a home together. Ours is no caravan of despair. Walk together. Come, yet again, come. Come, let us worship together. Our summertime services offer us an opportunity to experience a united, energized, and vibrant worship community. Because this is our first summer service, I invite you to reach out to someone you might not have met before. Find them and exchange a friendly greeting. I'm not. We are a friendly crowd today. You may be seated. It is great to feel your energy and excitement. And this morning, because it is the fourth worship weekend of the month, we are sharing our joys and sorrows by lighting candles. If you arrived here today with a sorrow so heavy that you need help of this community to carry it, or if you came with a joy so great that it simply must be shared, now is the time for you to speak. The sharing of joys and sorrows is our time, in the spirit of acceptance and support, to share with one another some special event or circumstance that has affected your life or the life of a loved one in recent days or weeks. So for the next few minutes, anyone who wishes is invited to step to the front of the auditorium, light a candle, and using the microphone that Anne provides for us, briefly share with us your message. You may also come forward to wordlessly light a candle and return to your seat. Or if you are unable to come forward to light a candle, just raise your hand and we'll light a candle for you and bring the microphone to you. I now open the floor for the sharing of our joys and sorrows.
I'm Elizabeth, and this is Sam. We're both still recovering, so a candle of healing for us. Thanks.
I'm Justin Woodward. I'm actually a therapist in the Madison area, and this particular spring has been, I don't know about you guys, but a particularly difficult one for a lot of people that I've observed. So I want to light a candle to both celebrate sort of spring moving on, and also just of concern and thoughts about how this spring may have been for others too.
Hi, I'm Susie De Beers, and I'm up here because my sister-in-law, Elida Snell, has the good news that her non-Hodgkin lymphoma is in remission, and she will be celebrating her 80th birthday the day after Christmas.
My name is Jim Moss, and my joy is it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Good morning, I'm Rachel, and I just wanted to say, happy birthday, Mom.
I'm Lorna Aronson, and it's with great joy that I tell you that our 2016-17 intern minister, Eric Severson, by unanimous vote of the congregation, has accepted a settled ministry position at UU Fellowship of Midland, Michigan. It is, for anyone who knows Eric's path to ministry, an incredible joy and accomplishment.
Well, I have a number of joys to share. One is the joy of this service, all of us together. So all those Saturday people that I never see and all those 11 o'clock people that I never see, it's just lovely to have us together, and I think it's a much more efficient way to handle the summer. So, I got it, a little bit more, just a little bit more. And I walked in here and I saw all these very talented musicians and my heart just swelled. And last Friday, a week ago Friday, I had a new bovine aortic valve put in, 36 hours in the hospital, and here I am. So I think that what I need to really think about is how very privileged I am in where I live and the resources that we have available.
Hi, my name is Bryce. This is the first time here, and I'm just looking to learn and look for a little forgiveness.
My name is Ken, and I want to dedicate this to first Susan, who's seriously ill, a founding member of Turgar Madison, who brought Mingya Rinpoche here the last couple of days, and all the people 400 or so people who were in attendance yesterday and Friday night at his book signing. For all those people, I light this candle, and especially for Susan, who's deathly ill, perhaps on her deathbed, but hopefully not. Hopefully she recovers right now.
This candle is for my mother. Like the path that so many seniors take, she fell, broke something, and is now in a tentative and transitional state. And I am working with her and wish her the best.
Hi, I'm Sarah Grant Reed from Dallas, Texas. I usually attend the 10 o'clock service at FUS Unitarian in Dallas, but we're not there today. we're here. We're back. I grew up in Oak Park, Illinois, around the corner from the Frank Lloyd Wright studio, and we used to come up to the Dells in Wisconsin when we were kids, having a wonderful time. My birthday was last week, and I'm 27 again, and I'm very grateful, and we're going to go to the water ski show, and when I talked to my sister about it, she said, do you think the same people will be skiing that were skiing when we were kids? So anyway, it's just a delight to be here, and I always love to visit any Unitarian Universalist fellowships. Anywhere we go, we like to visit. So very grateful to be here, and for the very warm welcome. Thank you.
I'm Barbara Mortensen, and I'm lighting this candle for my husband, Jack Mortensen, who died last Sunday.
I am Karen Rose. I've been overwhelmed by sadness since I heard the news yesterday about assistant UW basketball coach Howard Moore and his family. In a terrible automobile accident, he and his son were injured, but his wife and daughter were killed over in Michigan. It's just such a sad thing, and I just wanted us to be thinking about it and holding them and their entire family in our hearts. What a tragedy.
We light one last candle for all the joys and sorrows that remain in our hearts, knowing that they are with us as well. And with that, we join our voices again in song. Hymn number 323, Break Not the Circle. I invite you to rise in all the ways that we do. Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not the circle, make it wider still, till it includes and embraces all the living. Come wonder at this love that comes to life, where words of freedom are with humor spoken, and people keep no score of wrong and guilt, but will that human bonds remain unbroken? Join then the movement of the love that frees, till people of whatever race or nation will truly be themselves, stand on their feet, see eye to eye with laughter and elation. You may be seated. Our responsive reading today pays tribute to both the Memorial Day holiday as well as the tradition of Muslims who honor their deceased loved ones during the month of Ramadan. Our congregant Emily Smith has agreed to lead us in the responsive reading, and I ask you to join me in the bold text found in your insert in your order of service.
When death comes suddenly, taking just one friend, or in a magnitude beyond our comprehension.
Disbelief, we remember.
When bright and innocent lives are cut short without warning or mercy.
In agony and outreach, we remember.
When a long life closes with honor and thankfulness.
In reluctant submission and gratitude, we remember.
When bereavement and loss seem to be everywhere we turn and the world goes dark.
In emptiness and pain, we remember.
When help and comfort must be given to the afflicted and the work of our hands is needed.
In duty and sacrifice, we remember.
When arrangements must be made and the severed threads bound up.
In ritual and custom, we remember.
When it feels that nothing matters and life as it once was seems distant and unreal.
In sorrow and numbness, we remember.
When grief comes upon us in waves and the helpless heart overflows.
In sadness and aching tears, we remember.
When words at last become meaningless and the only peace lies inward.
In silence and solitude, we remember.
When communities come together and the hurt is shared.
In mutual comfort and consolation, we remember.
When a strain of music or a familiar image brings a gentle, wistful smile.
In tenderness and nostalgia, we remember.
When the spirit of life beckons us to lift our eyes to all that remains true and good.
In dedication and trust, we remember.
When the lessons of mutual help and understanding taught by tragedy live on in us to bless the world.
In love and kinship, we remember.
When we come to honor those we have lost by learning to cherish more dearly those around us.
In generosity and gratitude, we remember. I want to start by thanking the string band for their music this morning. You will notice in your order of service that the thread that weaves these music pieces together is the fact that all four of them were arranged by Sangeet. Now, according to the songbook he annotated, arranged, and edited, Sangeet Gellhorn trained as a Western classical pianist, flautist, and composer. He also spent several years in India with Osho, who was a 20th century Indian mystic. Sangeet wrote background information for each song he arranged, so if you want to learn more about today's pieces, just ask to see this book. Of particular interest to me is that Sangeet created the songbook specifically for use in Unitarian Universalist congregations. He also noted that in origin, the songs are not performance pieces, but represent actual spiritual practice. They are process pieces, devices for transformation of one's inner state. Now, I bring this up to give a little context for the music, and I also want to use this as an example of how we might dig deeper into the backgrounds and stories behind the materials that we use in worship services. Digging deeper and thinking critically about what we find there is not new to Unitarian Universalists. Our Unitarian ancestors in particular were engaged in critical thinking when they articulated that there was no biblical basis for the Christian doctrine of the Trinity. Hence the word Unitarian, meaning the oneness of God, was eventually embraced. Indeed, our UU tradition underscores the importance of using logic and critical thinking in this world. In addition to thinking critically, it's also useful to bring humility into our explorations, into our curiosities. By acknowledging that we bring our own perspectives and cultural biases, we understand that we see only a partial picture, and we have to admit that we too can be wrong. A call for such humility shines through in this quote from the 20th century Anglican vicar and missionary Max Weber, who once said, "Our first task in approaching another people, another culture, another religion, is to take off our shoes. For the place we are approaching is holy. Else we may find ourselves treading on people's dreams. More seriously still, we may forget that God was here before our arrival." What would happen if we were to take off our metaphorical shoes so as to better understand and see the sacredness within, between, and beyond us? What vulnerability and groundedness might we experience? Although well worth the effort, we should not be surprised when humble curiosity and critical thinking prove to be uncomfortable, for such work is complicated, messy, and risky. Now, complications, mess, and risk are indeed what I have encountered as I sought to craft today's worship experience. As noted in the blurb in the red floors, many Muslims around the world have been observing the Holy Month of Ramadan since early May. And so today we are seeking to explore aspects of Islam with intention, accountability, and humility. As one of the 5 pillars of mainstream Islam, Ramadan is hard to miss. For me, this seemed like an opportunity to approach the holy, and I have tried my darndest to take off my shoes for the journey. Perhaps that statement makes it obvious that I am not Muslim, and because of that, you should think critically and with humility about what we are sharing here today. Now, 2 of my ministerial colleagues, however, do identify as Muslim Unitarian Universalists, and to them I am deeply indebted for their inspiration, their courage, and their insight. The Reverend Ranwa Hamami and intern Sana Saeed wrote a letter this spring entitled "About Us, Without Us," a call to our Unitarian Universalist siblings from Muslim Unitarian Universalists. It was because of this letter that I was motivated to design a worship around this topic during this month when our theme is curiosity. Now, the first major message I took away from their letter was that I could not and should not craft this worship alone. As a white, Christian-raised, religious naturalist-leaning Unitarian Universalist, it is not in my wheelhouse to try to explain Islam. My colleagues Hamami and Saeed put it this way: we call upon Unitarian Universalists to engage in accountable, intentional, and humble solidarity with Muslims, including Muslim Unitarian Universalists. We write this statement to call on Unitarian Universalists to stop acting for us and start acting with us. Include Muslims and Muslim Unitarian Universalists in our conversations about solidarity, relationship, and the Islamic traditions as one of Unitarian Universalism's sources. Include us in this faith, not just our trauma, our poetry, and our holy texts. Now, to me, this request seemed like a no-brainer, an obvious good first step. I needed to be in relationship with Muslims and Muslim UUs in order to create a respectful and accurate worship experience. Now, unfortunately, this was easier said than done, as I was not able to meet any local Muslim Unitarian Universalists. Fortunately, I was able to speak with a University of Wisconsin-Madison professor who specializes in Islam, as well as with a congregant who has experience with Judaism, Hinduism, and Islam. I learned a lot from my time with these two, and I hope my first baby steps do indeed lead towards building stronger relationships. Now, why might such partnerships be so vital? From my perspective, it is because power and privilege are always at play. Those of us in positions of power need to have accountability partners. We need to be held accountable by those who are impacted by our actions. Our larger dominant culture, with which Unitarian Universalism is tightly woven, has all too often led to the colonization and appropriation of cultures, particularly those cultures that have and traditions with deep roots in communities of color. Partnerships keep us accountable to our visions for a better world, to our covenant to affirm and promote justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, to the vows that we make and that we break 1,000 times. My colleagues Hamami and Saeed give us specific examples of how Unitarian Universalists have been culturally misappropriating and exotifying the Islamic traditions in many ways for many years. They introduce it this way. When white and or non-Muslim Unitarian Universalists engage with the Islamic traditions with an orientation of self-development or self-gain, the implicit question has been, how does this piece feed me as a Unitarian Universalist, without considering the communities and cultures being taken from? This orientation draws upon the Islamic traditions as a source of our UU faith, only in the sense that it selects the beautiful pieces that feel good, while not attempting to deepen understanding of where those pieces, and the ones being ignored, come from, and how they are important to those who call the Islamic traditions their spiritual home. This orientation whitewashes and seeks to sanitize a complex collection of traditions, selecting only what is a good fit for the existing cultural majority. Now, my colleagues continue, making their point very concretely and making me cringe with their accuracy when they share this example. If you have ever selected readings from Rumi, Hafiz, or any other Sufi mystics without informing yourself and others of their Muslim origins and beliefs, you have culturally misappropriated from and or exotified the Islamic traditions. One common instance, they continue, is the UU hymn, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, which uses words from a poem by Jalal ad-Din Muhammad Rumi, but fails to include the theologically essential words, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times. These omitted words highlight the merciful nature of Allah, central to Islamic theologies, and the acknowledgement that it is human nature to make mistakes, including ones that cause harm. Now, through their analysis, explanation, and examples, my Muslim UU colleagues have held up a mirror in which I can see how easy it is, way too easy, to unintentionally exotify, make exceptional, colonize, and or erase the very religion that we are trying to explore. Now, it is up to us to focus our vision and to see clearly all that must be seen. And once we see it clearly, it is up to us to come back into right relationship with our siblings and kin of all religions. Take off our shoes and approach with humility. In these moments, I am grateful for mercy and forgiveness. So what happens when we do reach out and begin to create partnerships? Remember that UW-Madison professor I mentioned earlier? Dr. Anna Gade is the Vilas Distinguished Achievement Professor of Environmental Studies in the Nelson Institute for Environmental Studies. And she is considered an expert in Islam, religion and society, Southeast Asia, and global environmental studies from cultural perspectives. During our phone call, she counseled me on several points, and she specifically guided me towards an important verse from the Quran, as well as an Arabic word that encapsulates the concept. Does anyone out there know Arabic? I would love to hear from you about what your knowledge of this word is. The word that Dr. Gade shared with me is lit'afravu, and this surah verse is 49:13. So this concept and this verse, as I understand it, are at the center of the way Muslims in Muslim-majority countries engage with interfaith work. This concept and verse remind folks of how to treat their non-Muslim neighbors. Dr. Gade explained to me that the verse is about appreciating diversity and getting to know one another because God intended there to be diversity on earth. Now, let me tell you, I was quite surprised when the very next week after she told me this, I was walking down a Toronto street and came across this sign on the side of a building. It read, "Love your neighbor," and, "O humankind, we made you nations and tribes that you may know one another." Surah 49:13. For me, this emphasized Dr. Gade's point. Surah verse 49:13 is a well-known verse that is calling us to engage with one another, to get to know one another. Now, one way to get to know one another, at least for me, is through books. For me, I often actually start with children's books and young adult literature. If we would have had a message for all ages today, I may have shared a book entitled Yo Soy Muslim, a father's letter to his daughter. It was written by a Muslim and Latino poet, Mark Gonzalez. It was illustrated by Martot Amini and published by Salam Reads, an imprint of Simon & Schuster Children's Publishing Division. What I appreciate about the book is that it reminds me of the various kinds of diversity within a Muslim community. Let me share just a few pages with you. Within this poetic book, the father foreshadows for his daughter, "There are questions this world will ask. What are you? And where are you from?" Then the father advises, "On that day, tell them this, Yo soy Muslim. I am from Allah, angels, and a place almost as old as time. I speak Spanish, Arabic, and dreams." The father continues, Mi mamá creates life, mi abuelo works the fields, my ancestors did amazing things, and so will I. The father then offers reassurance and pride in his daughter's multicultural heritage. No matter what they say, know that you are wondrous, a child of crescent moons, a builder of mosques, a descendant of brilliance, an ancestor in training. Say it with me, the father repeats, Yo soy Muslim. Our prayers were here before any borders were. This book not only offers powerful affirmation for those folks with multicultural identities, it also reminds us of the reality that Islam transcends countries, ethnicities, cultures, and languages. Of course, there are other books that you can explore in order to learn more about Islam and Muslim experiences. Just see the back of the insert in your order of service. You will find a short list of just a sampling there. And if you would like the long list, you can go to the link indicated. And there might even be copies on the welcome table. I'll have to check that after service. In addition to these books, I want to offer one other way we can get to know one another. I need to start by sharing my gratitude for the local group Muslim Women United for Peace. I reached out to them recently, asking if there might be a community iftar, a meal eaten after sundown during Ramadan that we Unitarian Universalists could attend with an attitude of learning with humility. A woman named Camille wrote back, sharing that yes, indeed, there is a community iftar happening this upcoming Saturday, June 1st. The time to break the fast that day will be around 8:30 p.m. I am pleased to share with you that we are all welcome to join in that iftar. If you are interested in participating in this iftar, please come see me after service or email me before Wednesday, and I can give you the details that you need. It seems like it will be a wonderful way to get to know one another. So as we move into the final days of this holy month of Ramadan, my hope for you, for me, for all of us, is that we take off our shoes as we approach new experiences, as we get to know one another. May our critical thinking and our humility strengthen our vows, our visions, and our covenants. May we find the complexity, mess, and risk to be worth it. And when we break our vows yet again, may we learn to forgive ourselves, promise to do better next time, and know the unconditional embrace of beloved community. Blessed be and amen. Each week, we have the opportunity to get to know one another by sharing our financial resources. In this instance, we get to know the Black Lives of Unitarian Universalists. BLUU, or BLUE, provides information, resources, and support for Black Unitarian Universalists and works to expand the role and visibility of Black UUs within our faith. So we will now take up an offering, and we appreciate your generosity.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for the many ways you give to this community. In addition to financial contributions, we'd like to express a special thanks to those folks who helped make our service possible this morning. Our greeter was March Schweitzer. Our ushers are Pamela McMullen, Tom Dolmage, and Karen Hill. Hospitality, the coffee making and all, is provided by Jeannie Hills. Our lay ministers are Ann Smiley and Gail Bliss. Our sound operator is Mark Schultz. Our tour guide is John Powell. And the beautiful flowers up here are in memory of Gay Eliason, whose memorial was held here Friday evening. I do have a couple of opportunities to highlight as well. Board members Mike Linnau and Marsh Schweitzer will be available after service today to field your questions about the ministerial transition. I believe that will be in here, won't it? Yeah, thanks. And please see them if you'd like to discuss some things. Also, next week after service, we will be having a community meal and a parish meeting. So please notice in your red floors where it describes what's going on, the schedule for that day, and the several things that will be discussed and voted on in that meeting. It's an important meeting for us all, so please come if you're at all able. Thank you.
Like a river, like a fountain, like an ocean, may we know the peace, joy, and love that are ours to experience and ours to share as we go out into the world. Though we extinguish our common flame, we continue to hold close the peace in our hearts, the joy that we share, and our love for the larger world. These remain with us until we gather again. We now get to be seated for one final gift of music.
Amen. Amen.